I'm almost finished with this seed stitch scarf that's knit in the round, but I'm going to separate it at this messy looking place and make fringe. So this is going to be a steeked scarf. This is done in seed stitch, which I like for knitting in the round, and I like it for stripes because it looks the same on the front and back. When I was getting ready to do this, I worked a lot of swatches. I started trying different ways to cast on and bind off so that they would be equally stretchy. But this one, this was the cast on side, and it's stretchier than the bind off side, even though it's just a rolled edge. So I abandoned that one, and I tried another one where the cast on edge is stretchier than the cast off. The cast off, no matter what stretchy cast off I used, I could not get it to be as stretchy as the cast on. I tried a lot of different ways to make the, and this one they don't even look the same, so that was no good. Then I finally came up with this method and tested the colors I was going to use, and this one I finally got it to be equally stretchy on the cast on and the cast off. And for a scarf that's knit in the round and then cut, it seemed important to me because you don't want your scarf to hang funny. So this is what I'm going to try to do on this whole scarf, and it is not easy. It looks identical on both sides, but the way to do it is you don't cast off. The secret to the scarf being stretchy the same amount on both sides is, instead of casting off, I'm going to cast on again and graft another cast on to the outside of the scarf. I worked the slipknot cast on this way. I tensioned the yarn in my hand just like I was knitting, and then I wrapped the yarn around my thumb. Then with the needle, go over the left and under, over the right and under, and then this is kind of where it gets tricky. Then I untwist it. So I've got a loop, and then there's the yarn that I'm still tensioning, and I scoop that loop, or scoop the working yarn through the loop like that. And now this is, you need to keep it on your thumb and snug it up to the other stitch. Snug it up to the other stitch, hold it with your thumb, and then pull up the slack. I finished casting on all of my slip knots. I counted carefully. I used some markers, and I have 204 stitches. I cast on 220 to start the scarf, and I'm going to leave 8 on each side of the end of round for the fringe. So this is the right number to graft. Alright, I'm done with the brown yarn. I'm going to cut the tail, leave it long enough to, I'll be sure to have enough for my fringe. Done with the brown, and now back to the red. Now I have to cut a long enough piece of this red yarn to sew a graft around this whole thing. Fortunately, when I did my swatch, I calculated how much it takes, and it takes 12 inches for every 20 stitches, plus I'm allowing 12 inches extra, so I need 144 inches of yarn. I knit 8 stitches past the end of round marker. That'll be my fringe. I'm going to leave those on the needle for now, just so nothing weird happens. But I'm better safe than sorry. I'm going to take my needle off the end and put a cap on. And now I can take this short needle off of this side. So now I have a matching cable needle on both sides to do my graft. Okay, I have 144 inches of red yarn threaded on a tapestry needle. I'm going to need an extra size 4 double pointed needle. to maintain the tension between the two needles that I'm grafting together. My video at the beginning was out of focus, so I'm going to explain the graft again from the start, now that I'm halfway through. Let's pretend I haven't started. The yarn is coming from the knitted part on the right, and I want to start with a setup stitch on the first 2 stitches on the needles. That's the equivalent of the second half of the graft, which is already on these needles. So the first stitch on the needle is a purl stitch. That's the important thing to look at. Whatever your first stitch is, if it's a purl, then you work these as purls. If it's a knit, you work them as knits. So this is a purl stitch, so I'll go through the back stitch as a purl, go in purlwise like that, and then do the same on the front needle. And from now on, after the setup is the only stitch that matches the first stitch on the front needle. After that, you match the second stitch on the front needle. Always work whatever the second stitch is on the front needle. So the second stitch on the front needle, actually it looks like a purl, but it's a knit. So that's how that's a knit. This one was a purl. So I want to work the back stitches as knits. That just means to use the needle, like if it was a knitting needle, go in the way you would knit. So go in that one knitwise, take it off the needle, and then go into the next stitch knitwise, and leave it on, same as Kitchener stitch. And this extra needle, this size 4 DPN that's in there to hold the gauge, I go over that when I go to the back. And now I want to take the working yarn and put it under the extra needle and under the needle in the front so that it's ready to work the front stitches. I look at the second stitch, it's a knit, so I want to go into the front stitch knitwise and pull it off, and then go into the second stitch knitwise and leave it on. And now I tug these nice and tight because this needle is going to keep everything at the right tension. Now go to the back and I look at this stitch, it's a purl stitch, so I want to go into that stitch purlwise, take it off the needle, then go into the next one purlwise and pull the yarn through. Purls are easy because it automatically puts the yarn under that extra needle. Bring it to the front, look at these, and it's purl, so I go into this one purlwise, take that off, and then on the purl stitch, on the way I purl, combination style, underhanded, I have to take the purl all the way off the knitting needle, turn it around, and put it back on with the working leg in front. So my tapestry needle is going through the working leg of that stitch purlwise and pull the yarn through. Now go to the back. The next stitch is a knit, so I go into this one knitwise, take it off, and into the next one knitwise and leave it on. And then go under that needle and to the front, and then that's still a knit, so go into that knitwise and knitwise, pull it through, and then just keep doing that. This one's purl, so I go into this one purlwise and purlwise, 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 and so on. And this way, if you always just pay attention to what the second stitch is and do 2 of those on the front and back, then you'll always automatically change from knit to purl on the back, and the front will always match what you just did on the back. But if you put the work down and come back to it later, you won't be confused about where you left off. Alright, these are the last 2 stitches I need to work, and I'm on the back now, so I want to purl off and purl. Now on the front, purl off and purl. I already flipped that one. And now knit off. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the last one. So I'm going to do just that one on the back. Knit off. And the front one, purl, and off. And that's done it. These are extras. I don't need them, and they're slip knots, so I can just undo them. And then I have these 16 stitches left in the middle, and I'm going to just take the needle out. Now I have these 16 stitches in the middle, and all I need to do is unravel those stitches. Just do this all the way down. And unravel this middle part, and it will automatically stop when it gets to here. Alright, the last few rows just keeps unraveling, and then when you get to the cast on, because it was a slip knot cast on, all you have to do is pull that, and that unravels as well. So all of this is now it looks like a giant mess. Now I want to take the tails of from where the stripes changed, and I want to get those out of the way. So I'm going to move those back to either side, so that all I have left in the middle is the yarn that needs to be cut. I'll deal with these extra long bits when I trim the fringe. Alright, so there's my where I need to steek. So all I need to do now is cut right up the middle. It's 9 inches, so the middle is 4.5. And just go right up the middle. Notice this is only the green and red yarn, because the brown I only ever did single stripes, so each one of those has an end. Alright, so now I have one long scarf. Now I need to knot the fringe. For fringe knotting, you want to take the strands in order. So I want the last two, which is this brown one and this red one. I want to figure out which two go together. So this one goes down to this red. So this brown and this red are a pair. Those are the last two rows. So I want to tie those together, and I like to use a crochet hook to get my knots right up close to the edge. And then I use a needle, the same DPN I was using before, and I put it through the loops and hold it at the join of the knitting and pull the knot tight, and that makes the knot right up against the knitting. And repeat that for every pair of yarn strands all the way along the scarf to tie off your fringe. After I finished knotting the fringe, I washed the scarf and I tried to straighten the fringe out, and trim it. It stays a little bit kinked. I hung it so that with the weight of the water to stretch it out, but I don't mind it a little bit kinky. I think that this stripe was a mistake. My idea was 2 green stripes in a row, but it just stands out, so I recommend don't do a single contrast color except between the other colors. While I'm documenting mistakes I made, I missed one of my red strands at the very beginning, so I'm going to have to go and unknot all of this fringe to get this one picked up right. I wondered why when I got to the end I had 3 strands left, and I just put 3 in one knot, but that's not going to work for me, so I'm going to have to undo all this fringe and redo it. I fixed the fringe. I untied it, fingernails, and tied it again and trimmed the fringe. So my recommendation is you can be as perfectionist as you want to be, but you have to pick the right color yarn and don't make any stripes inside of other stripes. This is a very stretchy, great texture scarf. I really like it. I wish I'd made it longer. If I get some other yarn in a pretty color, I might have to do another one.